hottest month in recorded history. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee and host of the 538 Politics podcast, Galen Druk, for more on the heat and how it's impacting voters. Thank you both for being here. Ginger, it's been a busy July for you. You and your team have been reporting on this all throughout the month. What sticks out to you after looking at the heat that's affected across the country, but also around the world?
Right, and that's what you have to remember. This is global warming. It is global heat. And so there are people in the Midwest or Northeast who are like, well, most of the summer's been okay. Like, it really hasn't been anything above average. Yes, we've had the desert Southwest having incredible heat. We're talking consecutive heat. But Europe, Asia, so many pockets that add up globally to the hottest July on record. That's a big deal because we can go much farther than just the last century or so into paleoclimatology to tell us we haven't been this hot. And here's the other thing. When you look at the 1.5 degrees Celsius line, that threshold we're so desperately trying to stay away from, for 2 weeks this month, we touched it. So we are rapidly rising to that level. And as the globe keeps warming, average temperature, we are going to keep seeing more and more of that. And I do want to note that El Paso, Texas, for example, at 44 days was their end number for a consecutive 100 plus degrees. That broke the old record by 3 weeks. Remember, I was telling you, we get, kind of surprised and shocked when we break a record by a day or two when it's a consecutive record, not by 3 weeks. Just surreal.
Now, one, is this climate change on display for us right now? Are there other causes behind this? And do we know what the domino effect is of having the heat be this high for so long in so many places?
Right. So, yes, the answer is yes, there is human influence for sure. We knew this year was going to be hot because of El Nino, but to see it turn out this way has the remarkable footprint of human amplified climate change. And that's what the scientists were saying. Virtually impossible to see records obliterated like this without human influence. So let's go ahead and go through some graphics. I think it's helpful just for people to kind of put these two things together. Go back to 1880. Look how warm we are in comparison. That little Dust Bowl period was certainly something, but nothing compared to the last 20 years or so. And people will say, come on, the Earth's been around for millennia, not 140 years. You're right. And with temperature has always gone CO2. So it follows it. Here's the difference. That peak of temperature, which is the blue kind of around 100 and some thousand years ago, that was with volcanic and solar interruption. That's the thing that has driven CO2 prior to now. Right now, it's not the sun, and it hasn't been volcanoes to that degree. It has been following one line on the graphic, and that is CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions by humans. One following here, you can just see all the other variables. I think we have one more graphic to share. All the other variables on the map. The sun actually, because people bring that up to me all the time. They're like, isn't it the sun? Come on. The sun actually would be making us cooler right now.
Interesting.
So that's not it.
Now, Galen, there's less than a month now until the first 2024 Republican presidential debate. Some polls are now indicating that climate change is a big issue for voters. I know you spoke about one in particular that's showing that more prevalent. How are voters thinking about this issue of climate change in the context of the heat that we've seen for the month of July?
Yeah, it's an important question because Americans are reacting to the weather that they're experiencing and seeing across the globe. And they are acknowledging that it is the effects of climate change and, man-made climate change, essentially, when we look at polls. So a majority of Americans say that this summer is hotter. A majority of Americans even attribute some of the flooding we've seen, the more extreme weather we've seen, to climate change. More than 60% of Americans say that as a result of this heat, they're turning up the air conditioning, they're going outside less. So in these kind of smaller ways, Americans are today acknowledging that climate change is affecting them. Now, there's no getting around the fact that when it comes to politics, this is a partisan issue. And Democrats see it as a much more urgent issue than Republicans do. But we're also increasingly seeing some Republican politicians talk about it.
All right, Galen, Ginger, great to have you both.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.